Back at 100, fantastic day on BBC Radio Derby. And a very good morning to you. Now, in just the past week, the world has been shaken by the suicides of fashion designer Kate Spade and chef, food writer Anthony Bourdain. Both successful in their own right. Bourdain was a best-selling food, fiction and non-fiction author, full of life as well, full of joie de vivre whenever you saw him presenting and talking about food, a real larger-than-life character. Kate Spade built up a multi-million-pound fashion and accessories empire. What stands out, though, in both Spade's and Bourdain's deaths is the fact that they represented for many what seemed to be, on the surface, huge success, great happiness, great wealth in all aspects of life. Being successful doesn't make you immune to the pressures of life. Current statistics show that the highest suicide rate is among adults between 45 and 54 years of age. That's both men and women. One Derby woman recognises the growing pressures placed on all levels of employment in all industries, and she fears that these pressures are becoming the norm, which leads to people maybe not talking about the masses of stress they're under. Unreasonable deadlines, distrustful environments, verbal abuse, micromanagement, intimidation, sexual harassment, all lead to a loss in confidence and low self-esteem. Doraliz Aranda has made a self-help book called Hell at Work. Good morning.
Good morning.
This all sounds a bit doom and gloom, but actually the fact is we have to address this, otherwise it could end in tragedy.
We have to do something about this. We are reaching a crisis point right now. We are talking about suicide. We are not talking only about stress. We are not talking about bullying, harassment. We are talking about suicide. And I was reading last week about this designer, Kate Spade, and she never requested help because of fear of damaging her brand. And that is amazing. You know, we are overvaluing career. We are overvaluing image, reputation, above life. And that is something that we need to rethink. And the other problem that we are facing right now is that we accept everything. Everything. Whatever the boss throw at you, you have to deliver. You feel that you have to deliver. You have to cope. In the process of writing my book, I interviewed many people from different sectors, from teachers to people working in the healthcare, in different areas, in technology, and they all say the same, that they are scared of talking to their boss when they are facing problems in their work. Many of them can speak about issues in their personal life, if they are going through an illness or a difficult relationship, divorce. But when it comes to work itself, then people really are scared. And if you go and Google simply these job specifications in whatever sector, you will see that they require your ability to multitask. Another requirement is to work under pressure. The ability to work in a fast-paced environment. To be available to work overtime at a moment's notice. They clarify that it's paid, but that is invading your personal life. And sometimes they even require availability to travel when required. Again, far away from home. Of course that all this will affect your life. Will affect your world. And it is very important the way you feel in your job, because those 8 hours can impact dramatically in your body, in your personal relationships, at home, the way you treat your kids. It is a fantasy, this idea that you leave problems at home and problems from work at work. That doesn't happen. That is a reality. And it is sad when you hear these stories about celebrity chefs committing suicide, designers, but it's happening also to normal people. And the sad thing is depression. Depression doesn't allow you to see fame, success, money, a huge home, a great salary. Depression make you blind to life. It's just suffering. And that's why you say to many people who are going through a type of mental illness, you say to them, see everything you have. Why are you this way? And of course, they can't see it. And that is the thing with a mental illness. It affects your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior. You have a complete social withdrawal. And we need to tackle this. But in all the levels, not only schools, in charities, but also at work, companies need to stop allocating the problem to individuals. They need to take responsibility also and create awareness about it. And above all, help people to lose the fear to talk.
Now, it's interesting. What we'll do is we'll take a break, and we can already tell, Doraliz, that we could listen to you all day long, because you're already soothing us just with your beautiful voice. But you are striking chords, I would imagine, with many, many, many people listening to the show today, including myself. So we all know what it feels like to be under that much pressure, and you put a different hat on for whatever area of life you're in, and you try your best to not bring problems from home into work or vice versa. It's impossible because we're not robots. But it's interesting that you say about starting this early in school to understand how to deal with stresses and pressures. Actually, that's where the stresses and pressures are starting these days. Only the other day, I had a guest come in, and she said she was so stressed out at the moment. This wasn't on air, this was off air, as she was leaving the studio. She said to me, I'm so stressed out at the moment because my daughter is going through her GCSEs. And she said she's only really just kind of scraping the surface. She has 28 exams to do. 28 exams.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Most of which are 3-hour papers. I mean, how does a 16-year-old
can deal with that?
Let alone a grown adult dealing with the amount of pressure that their boss might be putting on them. This is clearly a problem that starts much earlier on than maybe we're all thinking about. Doraliz, we're going to talk more. We're going to hear more from you in a moment on BBC Radio Derby. If it's striking a chord for you, if this is your own experience that maybe you had to walk away from and start afresh, maybe things got so low for you, you had to seek help, give us a call. You don't even have to give your name. You can remain anonymous, of course, 0800 145 6161. Quite apt, really. Spice Girls, Too Much, on BBC Radio Derby. Apt because we are talking to Doraliz Aranda. She has put together a self-help book, audio book form as well of this, called Hell at Work. There have been quite a few high-profile suicide attempts, and sadly some that have been successful, including those, of course, in the past week that we've heard about from the hugely high-pressured fashion world, Kate Spade, and again the hugely high-pressured and stressful world of food and being a chef, and that was, of course, Anthony Bourdain. Both in very, very high-pressured industries. But actually, you're saying most, if not all, industry is now expected to take all this pressure on, and you just got to put up with it and deal with it. Otherwise, somebody else will be brought in to do the job for you.
Exactly. You are made feel weak or incompetent. And that's wrong, actually. We need to understand more about mental illness because there are like 200 classified forms of mental illness. The most common ones nowadays, especially the triggers are stress. And it's not only depression. It could be bipolar disorder, dementia, schizophrenia, anxiety disorder. But we hear more and more also about eating disorders. Bigorexia, this thing that men go to exercise out of control. OCD, post-traumatic stress disorder, the list is really long. And it can happen to anyone. You can have a life event that trigger these issues. It can be also genetic. So we need to understand, because last year emerged a very important report saying that in 2016 the NHS prescribed a record number of antidepressants. And the question was whether more people were anxious and depressed, or if they were easily prescribed. That is a big question. Another report came from the USA, actually. It was published by University of Harvard, stating that the greatest source of stress in the workplace are mistrust, unrealistic delivery deadlines, verbal abuse, unwanted sexual advances, the invasion of personal life, and the fast-paced work environment. But the winner always, again, here I can see that is work pressure. We can see also that last year, at the end of the year, we saw this massive movement of Me Too, where we saw how what is happening to women in many places.
Which, of course, is a brilliant thing, because it's empowering them to speak up and come out and talk about it.
Something interesting is that most women didn't realize when they were sexually harassed. It's like, hey, that happened to me also, Was that sexual harassment? Because it depends from what culture you are coming, to be able to go and speak about it, or to realize. Of course, women coming from some part of the world where the male image is very strong, they won't dare to speak and bring those type of subjects, because they might end up not being believed or ashamed. And in some cultures, shame is a big, big issue in itself.
So all these points that you're bringing up as the reasons for this depression, the reason why we're needing prescriptions for antidepressants. I mean, actually, on that point, there's some hope in those stats, actually, that people are actually coming forward for help. If if there's an increase in prescriptions, those people are asking for help, surely, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's hopeful. That's a good point, but there's still an awful lot more to be done. Is a lot of this, and I know a lot of the case studies you've used for this book, is the sense that they had poor leadership, that they had managers, bosses who they couldn't approach, who they couldn't talk to.
Well, you need to understand about the stigma in the workplace about it. But the origin, in most cases, is the lack of understanding. It's not that those managers are bad people. The sad thing is when good people actually are punishing someone because they don't understand enough about it. For example, if you say all type of people with mental health issues are not good at work, that is stereotyping. It's putting everyone in the same bag. If you say I don't like people with mental health issues, that is prejudice. You have an opinion about it. And from there, easily you can discriminate someone who has this type of problems. Because if comes an opportunity for a promotion, you won't consider someone who is very anxious probably, because you think, no, that person won't manage well. But anxiety is something that can be treated with psychological help, with meditation, with pharmacological help also when it's required. And I recover. In my case, for example, I recovered completely from anxiety. But I was in that problem for 7 years. You can easily get trapped in it for years and years if you don't understand.
So what was the turning point for you? Because let's end this on a positive note, to make people who this will definitely be striking chords with.
Yeah.
However much of a degree it's striking a chord, people will get this. So how do we make that change and that positive change in our life? For you, what was the turning point?
When I understood about anxiety, how is that internal mechanism happening in my body? It was not only the psychological help, it was not only the medication. Once that I fully understood about the disease, I could manage the panic attacks, the fear, the social withdrawing, and all the stuff that were tormenting me for years. And also I started to practice meditation. That changed my life completely. And for companies, actually, they need to work in corporate culture. Please work in your corporate culture. Invite people to talk. Also, be prepared to listen. Help your executive to develop listening skills. Organize once a year a well-being day. Invite people to come, not only managers, all type of staff. You can put information in the toilets because those are very intimate places, where you can include suicide prevention helplines, and also speak a little about mental illness and that the company will help when it's required. Send the right message to people and they will come to you. They will talk. But you have to tackle the culture of silence, the fear to talk, but above all, try to understand that stereotype, prejudice, and discrimination are a straight line.
Doraliz, always great to hear from you. Thank you for joining us on the show today. That book is available, as I say, it's called Hell at Work, if you want to get hold of that. If you want more help, by the way, and somebody to talk to, there are many organisations, of course. One that, of course, instantly springs to mind, and I'll give you the number, is the Samaritans. And you can call them on 116 123.